Hey, greetings everyone from our home to yours. I hope that this finds you safe and well. Happy Sunday. Today, our scripture passages come from Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 through 40. And this is a very famous passage, and it's the context of this passage is that the religious leaders during Jesus' time on earth, they spent a lot of time, a lot of energy trying to trip Jesus up and trap him into saying something that went against their interpretations of the Bible. One, so they could end his ministry. Two, so they could discredit him and what he's saying in his ministry. And three, so they could really end him, meaning his life. So the stories that were happening before our scripture passages today, we see that Jesus had silenced a religious group called the Sadducees. There were two groups, the two major groups, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He silenced a group of the Sadducees, and when the Pharisees heard this, that he had just kind of, shut them up with what he had told them, with his understanding of what the scriptures meant, they decided that they needed to jump in there and take a metaphorical swing at Jesus because he was threatening their livelihood. And the question that they tried to trip him up on was, what was the most important commandment in the law of Moses? And Jesus answers, you must love your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. Then he goes on to say that the second is equally important. And he says, love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on those two commandments, or on these two commandments. We know that there's a very well-known quote from Jesus. It's used in a lot of sayings, a lot of teachings. And there are, of course, two meanings to what Jesus is saying. One is that the first set of 5 commandments out of the 10 dealt with our relationship with God. And the second set of 5 deals with other humans and our neighbor, as Jesus puts it, and our relationship to them. So this categorizes the 10 commandments into 2, and then those 2 are the overall arching commandments that Jesus is talking about. The other meaning is exactly what Jesus says. Love God with all of who you are, body, mind, and soul. And with all of who you are, love your neighbor. You see, it's becoming clear to me that all of the law or all the Bible, everything that the Bible teaches falls into these 2 categories. I mean, it's true, isn't it? If you think about it, we can see it. And so our journey as Christ followers has 2 overarching themes. One is how we live out our relationship with God, and the second is how we live out our relationship with others. If we were to take a look at the books on the bookshelf behind me, you would be able to place those books by various authors and from various Christian backgrounds and beliefs. You would be able to place all of those books into 2 categories. And you could separate them into books that talk about God and books that talk about how we deal with, lead, teach, evangelize, and help other people. I mean, so it's simple that everything that is in the kingdom of heaven, everything that we talk about in Christianity and our life with Christ is so simple. It's 2 easy commandments. I mean, all the rules, all the regulations, all the things that are out there all break down into 2 simple, easy commandments. But those 2 are absolutely the most difficult things to do. I mean, the first one is that we are to love God with all our heart, mind, and soul. But when we follow and trust God with all of who we are we all in? I mean, most of us are probably thinking about someone and something else right now. And the second, other people bother us and make us mad. They get on our nerves. And how can we love someone who's of the opposite political party, like I love myself? And how can we love that person who did that to me or constantly gets on my nerves? How can we love them? I mean, it goes on and on and on. But God said that those were the most important commandments for a reason. And the reason is that he meant those commandments, and he meant what he says, that we are to love God, love our neighbor. So if you teach or preach a sermon, the lesson should only have 2 themes. If you write a book or your writings as a Christian, whatever the title should have 2 themes and 2 reactions. And As a Christian following Jesus, there are only two things that we have to remember, and it's love God with all of who we are and love our neighbors like ourselves. It's that easy, but it's really hard to do. So may we go this week and do just that. Grace and peace to you. God bless you. Have a great week.